Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Hey Bronco Nation, this is Boise State football wide receiver Ben Ford. I've had to face some setbacks on the field this past season, but toughness isn't about staying down. It's about getting back up. I am proud to represent Lithia Ford of Boise, where you can find the largest selection of Ford trucks that are built tough and, like me, handle the hits and keep pushing forward. Come check out the incredible inventory and competitive pricing at Lithia Ford of Boise. And when you buy here, you're not just getting a truck, you're supporting Boise State athletics and Lithia Ford NIL partnerships. Come see us at Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Mosser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circa Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Mosser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, everybody? You are here on another night out west, Sunday, July the 12th. I'm your host, Tom Mosser. As you can see with me tonight is the boss, the man himself, Mr. B.J. Rains. B.J., how we doing?
Oh, not great, because I told you I'd run all the technical stuff for you here, and I think I played the wrong intro. It's another night out west now, not another night in the Mountain West. So I haven't done this in a couple weeks here, so I guess I clicked play on the wrong one. So I apologize, but happy to be on with you here, and hopefully that's the only mistake I make tonight.
Well, I'll hold you to that. Taking a break from your summer baseball travels with the little ones. Glad to have you here. A lot going on. Again, dog days of summer, not a ton going on, although a couple things of note to discuss, but super excited about this episode as, you got a lot of stuff going on with some stuff you do for Lindy's Magazine, and you got some coaches that you talk to on a routine basis, and we're kind of parlaying that with our show here, and we're expecting to have both Coach Eric Olen of New Mexico and brand new to the Mountain West, Coach Joe Crispin from Air Force, expected to join us tonight within the next 10, 15, 30 minutes. First, we're going to go Coach Olen, Coach Crispin on the back end. Before we got a few other things to talk about, let's hit our sponsors up. Circa, the stadium swim's been jumping with the World Cup, everything else going on out there. I've actually heard from some people that have been out there within the last month or two. Sun Cruiser down there in the bottom right. Give those guys a shout as well. And at the bottom, let's get some of those subscriptions rolling in. Get a few every week down at the bottom at Another Night Out West on YouTube. Okay, so let's get right into it, BJ. We see the rundown over there. And again, for those of you just tuning in, Coach Eric Olen, we're expecting to have on 10, 15 minutes. So stick around, Lobo Nation. Before that, some big news yesterday, a rare Saturday news drop. Odd timing, not ideal. This affects the Pac-12 and the hierarchy of the conference, really. The Zags dealt a major blow with their projected starting point guard, Mario Sansuperi, kind of at the 11th hour, maybe closer to the 12th hour, heading over to Spain to play for a Valencia team that plays in the EuroLeague. Now, I don't know all about the structures of it, but basically he will be one of the top paid guys in Europe. All right. Now, the Zags pulled him about a year ago from Spain. He had a fairly good season for the Zags, and they were expecting big things from him, projected starting point guard. The portal is closed as far as guys entering it. Now, there might be some guys left in the portal, but I'm sure you can guess, BJ, not a lot of top-end guys still left in the portal. So, yes, there are going to be some guys maybe overseas, but again, that pool is depleted, and there's no way around it, BJ. At this point of the offseason is a really brutal blow for Gonzaga.
No doubt about it. I mean, like you said, the starting point guard at this point in the season. And I mean, we've seen it with some other teams that have suffered injuries and things like that, where you're expecting to have a guy and then it's, July 12th and now you don't. And there's really, like you said, are there guys out there? Sure. Can you take a chance on someone that needs a waiver? Maybe, sure. But I mean, no, you're starting point guard for a top 10 team. That's a massive deal. And you may know better than me, but I mean, obviously there's money related to this. I think he's signing a 4-year deal, but obviously the NIL that Gonzaga was paying him must not be close to what he's going to be getting there. And so we've seen it the other way, where sometimes guys are staying because they're going to get more money than going pro. And in this case, had a good good freshman season and did some things. And I think he was about 8.5 points a game and shot 41%, almost 4 assists a game. And I think started 17 of the 35 games I think I saw for Gonzaga. But for him to if you're a Gonzaga fan, I mean, I know you want to do what's best for the kid and you're happy for him, whatever, but you're also kind of like, really, dude, like on July 11th, like now is when you're deciding to do this. Like he really did kind of hang them out to dry, but obviously he's going to get a lot more money and go play pro. And now Gonzaga certainly, and I'm forgetting the gentleman's name. Wasn't there another guy that they thought might come back that went in the draft or something? I think they've had 2 pretty significant losses here in the last few months.
Yeah, and I mean, look, here's the thing. They are still going to be the probably unanimous preseason number 1 in the Pac-12, right? That was kind of solidified when they got that massive transfer job from Arizona State, okay? When he came to Gonzaga over St. John's, that kind of solidified them as the top team, undisputed for now in the Pac-12. They bring back Huff, who's a projected first rounder, Fogel, Harwell, who you're familiar with up at Boise, played down in Houston. Boise was recruiting him. But as you mentioned, the other guy's name is Jack Cahill. He was supposed to come from Germany and shockingly left his name in the draft. And I don't even think he got drafted. So no idea what happened there, but that's your starting backcourt. Okay. It's bad enough to lose one guy. Your starting backcourt gone. Now, the Zags recruit at a different level than any of these other teams that we talk about in the Mountain West or the Pac-12. There's no doubt about it. Okay, no offense to San Diego State or New Mexico or Utah State. The Zags recruit at a different level. They recruit nationally. Kentucky, Kansas, they get most of the guys that they want, right? So, but it's this stings. And so they will still be number 1 in the preseason polls. But this really shrinks their margin for error if Utah State or San Diego State or whoever, Colorado State, Boise State, Oregon State, they really put it all together. The margin between these programs now has shrunk for sure because the depth goes away. 99% of the time, the guy who you're going to replace these 2 guys with, they're not going to be up to the standards of Saint Saint-Supéry was. So, there's no way around it. You kind of mentioned the financials, and the programs here in America are not used to being the ones that get spurned. It's the programs over in Europe that get spurned traditionally. This one kind of went the other way. It left the Gonzaga Twitter yesterday was not real thrilled, and it's unfortunate for them. I guess it's a good thing for the rest of the conference, but I guess that's, you play the game and sometimes you're going to get burned.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of the projections. Gonzaga fell, and this is just one example. John Rothstein's rankings, he had him 7th before this happened, and now he's got him 17th. So he dropped John Rothstein. He's one guy, but he dropped him 10 spots in his rankings nationally, at least. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be a hit, and I mean, their depth chart better than others. I mean, who's ready? I mean, how do you see them overcoming this thing?
They have a I don't want to say middling, because I'm sure that he's a nice player, point guard that they are just expecting to shuffle up. But it's a case of like, look, he's an unproven guy. He could be a guy like, you would see on other rosters in the Pac-12. And so what it just does now is it just lowers your ceiling, because your Final Four or bust a week ago, right? If you're Gonzaga. Now it's like, sure, could they still get there? Yes. But they're really front court dominant. They'll need a guy like Harwell, who wasn't even a projected starter 6 weeks ago, and now he's like their lone backcourt big gun as of now. And it's like, all right, well, they're going to be favored to win the conference, but as you see, you point out with Rothstein, maybe their ceiling's like a Sweet 16 or maybe Elite 8 if they can pull an upset, and you're a massive underdog then to get to the Final Four. So, Mark Few should not be doubted. He's got a proven track record. The program does. They're not going to fall apart, but kind of a shocking thing to see happen here. And if you're a fan of Boise or Utah, any of the other teams in the Pac-12, this, unfortunately, I hate to say it for Gonzaga fans, but this is what you want to see, because it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. So, we'll have to find out if they make any moves here and dip in overseas. Few was one of the early pioneers to do that, along with Randy Bennett a decade ago before it became in vogue. So we'll see if he's got any other connections over there that can bring him a guy to kind of replace what he lost here. But big news, and we had to talk about that. One other thing, you guys see the rundown over there. I think we'll get to Eric Olen maybe 5 or 10 minutes. We'll see what we can do here. But wanted to mention for New Mexico fans in here, and for you too, BJ, the NCAA announced, I think back on Thursday, that Wichita State was given the host site for the additional first round games, I guess we're going to call them now, that was being bid on by many schools. Of course, like I said, New Mexico had put in a heavy, aggressive bid to host those games in the Pit. I think, as you had said, Boise was in the mix for that also. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit. But the NCAA awarded Wichita a 2-year deal, so it's not a very long one. Dayton's had this thing for 20 years. They gave it a 2-year deal. We'll see how it plays out. It's kind of close geographically to Dayton. And so I think that's why people thought that maybe Boise or Albuquerque in the Pit had a chance to get it, spread it out a little bit more geographically. But the NCAA stuck it in Wichita, right in the middle of the country. But again, only for 2 years. We'll see what happens. Did you hear anything about what's going on, what Boise's reaction was, or what kind of bid they submitted?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. And I think part of it had to do with the time zones and the schedule. And as you know, these teams that play on Tuesday play on Thursday. If they play on Wednesday, they play on Friday. And now you have more games and more teams. And I think some of it came down to, the logistics of, if you have a team in Boise, Idaho playing a game on a Tuesday and then has to get to a regional in Charlotte to play on Thursday or something, I think it could just be kind of tough. And so with the sites they had done and the way it worked, you couldn't send everybody, I don't think, to the West Coast sites. And so I think they just wanted a more centrally located spot there in Wichita. But as you said, Albuquerque put in a bid. I know Des Moines put in a bid. There was a lot of cities that put in bids, some bigger cities, Denver, Salt Lake City, I believe. But Boise State really wanted it. And they've only announced the NCAA tournament sites for the next 2 years. And this was only a 2-year deal. So I found that kind of interesting. So the first and second round sites, the regionals and stuff are only done through the, I believe, 2028 or 2029 season. I think it's through 2028. So there's going to be a whole lot coming in the near future about future sites. And I know Boise wants to be back in the mix for that, but I know there's locker room space, I know, is something that was talked about, and you have to have the infrastructure, in the bowels of the arena to have all these teams and all the media and stuff. And so I don't know if that was an issue for Albuquerque. They don't have the biggest, for anyone that's been there, they don't have the biggest kind of area for teams to arrive and extra locker rooms and things like that for the other teams and all the big media workroom and all that. So I don't know if that limited them. I do think Boise was limited by the geography, at least on short notice here with the regions they have set and how the formatting was going to work. But yeah, they were disappointed, but I know they're going to put back in for the first and second round sites and keep trying. There's obviously been a lot of history in the tournament in Boise, and I know they're going to keep pushing. But yeah, you were hoping some familiar spot would get it. We have Dayton being more east. You'd think maybe somebody a little more west, but I do think a lot of it had to come down to logistics when it comes down to it.
Well, it's been very well supported in Dayton, and that's likely why the NCAA's never revisited changing that. It's centrally located to a lot of the first round spots. The fans turn out in droves for those games traditionally. So we'll see. Maybe that's why they only gave Wichita 2 years. We'll see how they support it. Now, I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe that the TBT, the basketball tournament that starts soon, I believe that their Final Four is routinely in Wichita, or they've had it in Wichita before, and they turn out for that a little bit. We'll have to see, because they don't really pack that arena in for Shockers games. Now, they haven't been super the last few years, but we'll see, because the fans in Albuquerque are disappointed because they've had a tradition too. Jim Valvano's Final Four with NC State in the pit. So they would have loved to have had this awarded to them. We'll see how the 2 years turn out. If they can't sell it out, they're probably going to lose it real fast, and it'll get opened back up. Like you said, Boise's had first and second round games in the last handful of, the last decade or so. So maybe, they're interested in that. Whereas I don't think the pit, they kind of know that they're not in the mix for first and second round games. So they would just settle for this first round stuff. So we'll see how it plays out. Just kind of found it interesting. As you said, I was hopeful that with two serious bidders in the mix out west between Albuquerque and Boise, that we could get one of those in. Wasn't to be, but the 2 years ago fast. We'll revisit it in a couple years. Well, the NCAA will, and we'll be here to talk about it. So, all right, couple minutes. We're going to get Eric Olen on here. Before we get the head coach of the Lobos on here, BJ, the Lobos, a good first year under Eric Olen. No longer a part of the same conference as Boise, but they will play Boise in a non-conference game. So you'll still have some, but paying attention to what's going on there.
Good to see my buddy Jeff Grammer again. Looking forward to that.
Well, of course. I mean, we got to get Jeff on here soon. Didn't quite sneak into the NCAA tournament, made a run in the NIT. Good first year, I guess. If you would have told Lobo fans before the season that's what they were going to get, they would have probably taken it in a tough conference. Didn't quite get over the hump, first, second, 4 out, whatever they were from the NCAA committee. But now with some of the heavy hitters gone to the Pac-12, the expectation is going to be from Lobo Nation that this is a team that wins either the regular season or the conference tournament. And as you know, with Jake Hall coming back, which I'm sure we'll talk to Coach about, they're going to expect this team to be in the NCAA tournament. Before we get to Coach here, what are your thoughts preliminarily here on the Lobos?
Yeah, and again, for folks that are, not joining us late, this is something we hope to get a coach or two on every week for the next, 6 weeks or so, Tom. We're really going to try to I think we're supposed to get Ali Farouknamesh on this week and Vance Wahlberg as well. There's a couple we're working on for next week. I want to we were hitting the Mountain West with 2 this week, so maybe we go Pac-12 with 2 next week. But we're going to hopefully get – I'd love to get Mark Few on the show here. So we're going to keep working on all these. And like I said, my magazine's in the other room, but I do the Lindy's magazine. I do a lot of the Big 12. I actually do all of. I do the Mountain West and the Pac-12. And so I got to talk to these coaches for 10 or 15 minutes anyway. And I say, what if we double it up on video and also get them on the show? So the same – interviews we're going to do and quotes we have, you'll be seeing in a Lindy's magazine near you come fall September. But New Mexico, they're obviously one of those teams that, with losing so much talent into the Pac-12, they were one of the main ones that kind of got left behind when it comes to trying to carry that conference and have a schedule. And certainly Grand Canyon helps, and Nevada, and there's a couple teams, but certainly, as you said, the schedule is going to be a big one. But Hall, 117 made threes. It all starts with him. Entered the portal briefly, decided obviously to come back. His brother, great job by Eric Olen getting his brother to commit, and they probably either overpaid him or I don't know, but to get the brother to come back, that helped get him, and that was obviously huge. I know Tinette, you're high on Tinette, the point guard as well. We'll see about, Howell and some of these other guys. I know Hudson Mays, the transfer they brought in, that they're liking a lot. And I think the intriguing part for them really comes in the front court. When you look at some of the guys they added in the front court and the names there, Petraitis, the guy from Air Force that went on to Cal, everybody in the league kind of knows him. And then they went and added some Europeans. I think 5 Europeans added to the roster. Dude from Germany, they've got Austria, and then an Italian prospect, and then they got 2 more transfers that started overseas, also. So it's a new look roster. It looks different, not quite as much of a rebuild, as last year. Everyone was saying, well, they were one of 3 teams in the country that didn't have a player or staff member or coach back. So they at least have a little continuity now. But certainly I think that, they're going to be one of the heavy hitters in the Mountain West for sure. Hall's got to be the preseason player of the year, right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think who else is there? Is there anybody from Grand Canyon coming back?
You could see one of the guys from Nevada. They have a couple guys back that could get a vote or two, but otherwise it will be a newcomer. Grand Canyon brought some good guys in, but it's going to be Hall, and you might see like a Price or a Weems from Nevada get a vote or two, but it'll be Hall for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I like Eric Olen. I think he's a nice guy. He came on with us a couple times last year, and excited to have him on. We will, again, Air Force. And I know most people might skew over Air Force, by the way, because it's Air Force and they were terrible last year. But I think Joe Crispin, that might be an interview worth watching. I think he's a guy that, based on the press conference he gave Tom earlier, I think he's actually that could be an intriguing interview later in the show. So I am looking forward to talking Air Force and talking to Joe. But obviously, we're going to get Coach Olen on here shortly.
Yeah, let's. Why don't we hear from Coach Olen? We'll take a 30-second break, and we come back. We'll be here with Lobo coach Eric Olen.
The biggest contest we've ever seen.
Seriously, what's the guarantee?
They're still talking about it.
I think it's time to put the rumors to rest.
Showtime!
$30 million.
$30 million?
$30 million? $30 million?
That's $30 million guaranteed. 3 contests, multiple ways to win, no rate. Entry starting at $1,000. Enter Nevada, play from anywhere.
Another night out west, our new series. As we said, I'm combining my kind of Lindy's Magazine duties with another night out west. We wanted to get some coaches on here, Tom, and going to be a fun series here talking to these coaches. And our first one, nice enough to be the debut coach here on the debut episode, debut coach here on the show, is Eric Olen, year 2 at New Mexico. Coach, we appreciate you jumping on. How we doing?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the coverage you guys provide for the Mountain West.
Well, we thought we'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and I'll write my Lindy's preview, and everybody can watch the interview as well and get updated with your team on year 2 here. Year 2, just big picture, Coach. You had obviously a lot to adjust to and learn about this league and your program and building the program there in Albuquerque and everything. Just a year later now, you got some returners, some new players, but what's kind of the 30,000-foot look here at where the Lobos are at going into year 2 for you?
Yeah, I feel good. I personally feel more comfortable, certainly, just with being, back in the same place. And, there's certainly a portion of last season that just felt like we were using someone else's facilities, and now it's home. And I think, like you said, a year under the belt, been to the places, been on the road, understand the league a little better than obviously coming in. And hopefully we can build on some of the things we did well from last season.
Well, having Jake Hall certainly helps with that, to build on that. 117 threes last year. I think it was a school record, and it was like the 4th most ever by a freshman in the country. And there's some pretty good names on the other 3 that he's behind, I guess. But what getting him back, I know he briefly entered the portal, but I know his brother's there, but just what would that mean to get him back and to be able to have him in the fold to build off what he did last year?
Yeah, it's big. I think obviously the college basketball landscape's getting, really everybody's trying to get huge, but I still think you win with really good guards, and And so having Jake and Uriah Tenet back is huge for us. Jake obviously had a terrific freshman season with the way he scored the ball efficiently, the way he shot it. He had a lot of interest in the from other places, and sort of looked into that a little bit, and just felt like he had some unfinished business here. And obviously we had his brother coming, and Uriah coming back, Chris Howell coming back, are guys that he really likes playing with. So we're fortunate that he decided to come back, and hopefully he can help us have a good season.
Coach, you mentioned briefly there Uriah Tenet. Jake Hall gets a lot of the publicity, and rightly so. But Tenet, one of the most important, if not the most important position on the floor, to get him back, a guy in his shoes at a non-power 5. I think you would probably agree that 80-90% of players in his position as a freshman could go elsewhere, right? So you were able to retain Tenet as well, which gives you stability at the point to get Jake Hall those looks. Even though he was a freshman last year, he finished a lot of games for you in crunch time. So speak to what the steps you're looking for Uriah to make here from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think in this process, right, like Jake is the one that gets talked about because he went in the portal and he came back, and it was an emotional process where, Uriah almost gets overlooked because he just was steady and solid and coming back the whole time. And, but he's a terrific basketball player, and I feel like he can make a jump. He had a fantastic year as a freshman. Like you said, he's in big moments, ton of experience, played a lot of minutes, even when he wasn't starting. He started the last few games of the season, but even when he wasn't starting, he was closing a lot of games. And if you go turn the film on, we're late in close games, and Uriah and Jake are in 2-man actions, and they're making plays. And so that's really valuable experience for those guys. I thought Uriah had a terrific season defensively last year. He had more steals and turnovers on the season. And I think there's a jump he can make efficiency wise on the offensive end. Pretty prolific kind of pull up mid-range jump shooter out of high school. And he had some mixed results with that. And I just think with his comfort level coming back, if he can just be a little more consistent finishing and making some of those, short twos with a little bit of, projection and increased shooting. If he takes a jump efficiency wise, I think he's a monster this season for us.
Yeah, I don't think that's too much to ask. I think it's a natural progression, and I think that's certainly doable. We'll give you guys one of the best backcourts out west for sure. Let's move away from the backcourt for 1 second. You got a couple of veterans, one that you're very familiar with. You mentioned him too, Chris Howell, returning from injury. One of the guys you brought in, Petritis, also off of an injury. How are those guys progressing? Do you see anything like limiting them once you're in actual fall practices in October? Are they going to be ready to go in November? How are their bodies holding up? What kind of veteran leadership are you looking for from those two guys?
Yeah, those two guys are important for us. Just kind of experienced guys who have been through it, kind of provide that adult in the locker room kind of presence. And, unfortunately, we lost Chris Howell last year, and he had some nagging things throughout, and never quite got into the shape that he probably needed to, and I thought that contributed a little bit. So he's worked hard this offseason. He looks great. He's full go and playing well. He had a good practice this morning. Ritas is still rehabbing. He had a surgery last year, so he's rehabbing, and he's starting to get back into some non-contact stuff. I think he'll probably be more full contact as we get back into the fall. But we expect them both to be, clear, ready to go and impactful guys for us. And both of those guys do all kinds of stuff that impact winning, obviously on the court, in the locker room, just their competitiveness, their personalities are infectious. We're excited about them both.
I know you guys added Hudson Mays as well. I mean, what else, aside from Hall and what he's bringing and some of the other guys we've talked about, what else excites you about this team?
Yeah, I think we just have a really versatile group. I think that I liked our group last year. I thought we were really talented, but we did at times feel a little bit singular in some of the things that we could do. And I think this group is just, a little more positional size on the perimeter, more interchangeable parts, And I think we're going to have a little bit more versatility to how we play really on both sides of the ball, that I think, could be a benefit for us.
Okay, we're here on another night out west with Coach Eric Olen of the New Mexico Lobos, kind enough to join us here in our off-season coaching interview series. So, Coach, I want to ask you, when you got into coaching, the whole recruiting landscape was far different, and now you guys have taken advantage of this, as have a lot of other programs. We got to go international, right? So take me through that process. You had massive success with that with Tomislav this past season. You got several foreign guys on your roster this coming season. Is it kind of the same format where your assistants are over there scouting these guys out, and then you kind of follow up once you know you're really interested? How much are you seeing of them? How does that process kind of play out?
Yeah, so it's kind of each case is individual a little bit. So, we have, I'm trying to think of all the guys, right? Like Imran Soljanovic, Benny Shuk, Coach Tenkelwich watched 2 years ago under 18 championships. We were recruiting them in previous years, and just the timing of things. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and there's relationships involved with the players and the families, and agents are a big part of it now. Finn Lastring was someone that had a really good under 18 European championships, and we'll have staff members at that event again this summer. So that's a place where we get to see some guys in person. But then there's also some of the process where you don't see them in person, and you kind of have to go off film and word of mouth, and trying to do your homework is, hey, is he really as big as this says? Is he, and we did have success with that. Tomislav Buljan was someone that we only saw via film, but I had a former player who was playing in the league with him. And so, being able to have Tony give me feedback of, yeah, he's a good player, and, things like that, or you try any resource you can find to try to do your homework. But Federico Grani was someone that we, did not see in person, went through film and other references. And, he showed up as advertised and has been pretty good so far. So that's encouraging. And, it's really just kind of, sometimes we get the chance to see them and we got a better feel for what they're like. And other times it's, there's a little bit of risk involved, but, I think, it's not that we only want to get international players. I do think stylistically, some of the things that we do make sense, especially for some of the front court guys, that European. But yeah, we're just trying to build the best basketball team we can and try to use every avenue available to us to do that.
Are those guys a little talking to a couple of these other coaches? It sounds like maybe they're a little more affordable at times too, or maybe sometimes the agents are a little more honest or easier to deal with. I mean, is there a different? There's more to it than just fitting in with the style of play and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it. I think that, and then like you guys talked about Tomislav doing well or other guys having success. I think if those guys over there see guys come over and have success, it gives them confidence that that's a good situation, because there's places where they come over and they don't have success, or they don't, so there's a lot of factors. And that's why it's kind of it's hard to, you don't want to paint it with too broad a brush, because it's a little different for each person. And, but yeah, there's relationships involved. And, if guys come over and have success, I think that gives you an advantage for the next round. But that works both ways, right? Jake Hall's success when he goes in the portal, everybody in the country is calling us like, hey, I want to send my guy to do that, right? And we just encourage that and say like, yeah, you should. Jake's not that good. Your guy's going to kill it, So, yeah, it's kind of all those factors, when you're trying to put the roster together.
You mentioned Tomislav, and I mean, New Mexico, but I mean, before you got there, obviously, is mostly what I'm talking about. It's been hit as hard as anybody in these league in terms of losing guys in the portal and bringing guys in and watching them go just do big things elsewhere. How I know it's a rabid fan base down there. You guys are getting big crowds and stuff, but how are you guys in rev share and NIL? And I'm sure you're going to say it's nowhere near where it needs to be. No coach is going to say it's perfect, but how do you feel you guys are trying to equip from that aspect to be able to start hanging on to more of these guys like Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, we just have to keep growing, right? We have to keep growing and competing in the landscape, um, and I think a lot of it is a mindset, right? And my hope is that people look at it as an opportunity to impact the program, impact our success. And we aren't going to be perfect in that, but we're going to try to do the part that we can to control the experience they have, to make sure guys feel like they're getting better. I think when guys are in an environment where they feel good about where they are, they know they're progressing, they like the environment, then that gives you a chance to keep them, right? And that's the part you can control. And we won't keep everybody, but hopefully we can keep our share. And I tell our fans when the question comes up is you know is you can't it's just a new landscape, right? And you can't sweat every decision. Good players are going to leave, but we're also going to bring in good players. And as long as you know the administration and the university is committed to being successful and providing resources, then we're going to replace good players with good players, and we'll build good basketball teams. But there's a lot of this that we can't control, and we just got to focus on the things that we can.
So you mentioned a new landscape in college hoops. Never more appropriate at this time with the restructuring, let's say, of the conference that you're in. You lose several heavy hitters. You replace them with some teams to backfill. So the conference schedule will not be as strong. You guys really went out, kind of scheduled pretty tough in the non-con. You got Utah State coming to the pit, so that'll be fantastic. You're in a really good, I don't know if you're really calling it an MT, but a little series there where you're going to play Boise and Oregon State and on a neutral floor. You also got games against St. Mary's and I believe Santa Clara, an NCAA tournament team from a year ago, both NCAA tournament teams. So really trying to step up the non-conference scheduling there. Are those discussions you're having as a staff, kind of realizing that, hey, it's going to be tougher now to get an at-large bid out of the new Mountain West, even with some added bids here? Or is this just what you're trying to do from a philosophy of scheduling wise?
Well, I think it's both things, right? And it's like, if you want to be in the conversation, you got to schedule aggressively. And we have, they're not all announced. We have another home and home. We're starting on the road with a very good team that would be a quad one, in addition to the ones you mentioned. So yeah, we're pursuing a resume that will give us an opportunity if we play great basketball, to try to be in that mix for an at-large. But we'll see how that goes and how the league does. And it's not, obviously you're playing the game, so you are in control. But you also need some help because nobody's perfect. It's hard to win on the road. Like, you don't want to be in the best one bid league in the country. Like that's the worst place to be. Right. So, we're trying to give ourselves some options, but we need everybody to play good basketball, and we have to do our part too for the rest of the league, right? Like that's why, we kind of all need to work together in this. And a lot of our conversations with the teams who had left, right, who are in the new Pac-12 is, hey, you need the same games we need. Let's try to play each other. That's, you saw the Utah State one come to fruition, St. Mary's with Gonzaga leaving, they need good opponents. So we're trying to find teams who are kind of in the same boat as us, because otherwise it's hard for everybody, So yeah, we're certainly trying to compete against really good teams who have similar aspirations as we do. And, I think that gives us all the best chance to try to, get in the mix.
Well, final thing for me, Coach, and appreciate your time again. Eric Olen, New Mexico, second-year head coach. I'm doing the Lindy stuff, and I'm putting the list together, and I'm still doing the Pac-12 and Mountain West, and now I'm like having to reach out to the UC Davis SID and the Hawaii SID and Texas State. I mean, who knows what's in what conference nowadays? But what, in terms of the Mountain West and what you guys have now, you lost some pretty good basketball programs, but I know you backfilled that a little bit, and obviously Grand Canyon was in last year and is now staying. And just what do you make of that? You talked about it, but the league you're in and what you think it can be basketball wise here moving forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still a great basketball league, and I'm not pretending it's what it was. Like, you can't lose the teams that we lost and think you're not, or you're just going to stay where you are. Like, that's not realistic. But I think there's some really good teams. There's some great coaches. I'm familiar with Davis and Hawaii, having been in the Big West with them. Hawaii was a top 100 team last year. So that's a nice addition. I think UC Davis is certainly capable of being in that 130 range and being a quad 2 on the road. And I think that's part of it. I think San Jose State is going to be much improved if they could stay healthy. Coach Miles does a great job there. So, I'm optimistic for what the league can do. And I think that while, everybody's just got to do their part, right? Some of us are trying, to compete at the top of it, and we got to play great basketball and it's not just about competing at the top, but like we need the best teams to be analytically pretty good, right? And then, if you're in more of the middle, then we need you to analytically be, quad 2 and as many of those games as we can kind of get, then the better for everybody. But again, we're all sort of in it together, but also competitors at the same time, right? So there's a weird dynamic there, but it's interesting you really have to root for the success of your competitors in a real way, to give yourself the best opportunity. And I think everybody in our league understands that and is rowing in the right direction.
All right, Coach, really appreciate your time. As BJ said, I just one last kind of semi-serious thing. Once we get to the season, are we going to see you with the full beard here? Not used to seeing you with the facial hair. Is this just an off-season thing? Are we gonna sport that during the winter?
Yeah, no, it's probably just kind of comes and goes in the off season a little bit. I didn't know we're doing Zooms today, right? Like I thought we were Lindy's phone call, but it's all good. I
like it.
I'm sure you would have shaved if you knew that was the case, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We appreciate it, Coach. Thanks a lot for jumping on, and hopefully during the season, after you get some big wins, you were nice enough to join us last year, I think twice. So hopefully we can get you on again as the season gets closer during the season. And thanks for doing this, and best of luck this year.
Thanks, good. Yeah, happy to jump on in the future, and I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
You too.
Hey, I'll tell you this, one thing that I noticed is just the comfort level that he seems to have there, Tom. I mean, we talked about it, but being new to the league last year and not knowing, and he's saying at the beginning of the interview, just felt like he was renting somebody else's facilities the first part of the season. So he just has I know Jeff kind of says sometimes they're a little difficult with the media there. It's tough to get access, whatever. He tweets about that and stuff, but it just seems like he feels a little more relaxed, at least in that interview, or to me, with kind of going into year 2 here at New Mexico.
Yeah, well, he's very chill and laid back. I mean, I think you see that often on social media. Some of the I don't know if it's criticism, but people point out that he's got that California vibe, right, coming from UCSD out in San Diego. He's more relaxed and laid back. Doesn't mean he's not intense. He's very sharp. He made some good observations in there. Said how anybody who knows anything about what happened in the offseason here, teams overpaying for big guys. What was one of the first things he said? You still win with guards in college basketball, right? So let's not lose sight of that. He made the observation that last year he thought his team, he used the word singular in terms of, like, I would have said they weren't very versatile, right? He acknowledged that. So I'm sure he's going to make some attempts to fix that, right? And be a little bit more versatile with what they can do on offense or defense or position wise or rotation wise. But yeah, so look, for first year coaches, it's not always easy because there's a lot of different stuff going on and you're not familiar with how things work there, right? Now, after you've done it for a year, he's going to be more comfortable in his skin. He's got I'm sure he's got a good staff in place, a bit of retention there, which certainly helps. He also, I like the fact he dropped a nugget there about the scheduling.
Yeah.
So,
who's that? Who do you think that is?
Well, I mean, it could be like he said likely quad 1 on the road. So I'm going to assume it's going to be like a lower end, like Big 12 or maybe SEC program, like an Arizona State or a Mississippi State, one that probably would not be quad 1 if it was a home game. But because it's on the road, it's going to be quad 1. I have no idea. That's just what popped into my head. Somebody like that, somebody that's going to be in the 50s or 60s in the net, but it's good for quad 1. Maybe we'll be surprised. I saw this week they scheduled Oklahoma State in a scrimmage, and that won't help their analytics, but it's a good measuring stick in the offseason. So certainly trying to upgrade the schedule, which people who listened on here to me 2 months ago, and I said that was my big thing for them. I said, screw it. I know you need the revenue for home games. you got to go out and schedule like your life depends on it if you want to be in consideration for an at-large with some of the games that you're going to take on in the conference now, trading out, as an example, Boise State for UC Davis, Utah State for UTEP. Like, it's not going to add up, right? Yep. And they've certainly done that. So but again, even right there with that stuff, he's so sharp. He knows we got to take care of our business, and the other teams have to take care of their business too. We need San Jose State to stay healthy and play well in the non-con. We need UC Davis, and he didn't even mention them, but UNLV to not freaking lose quad 4 games, right? So that they drop in the metrics. So he knows exactly what's going on. Lobo Nation, as we've said many times, and they all know it, enjoy him while he's there. You know, you want him to be at risk of leaving in 10 months, not 8 months, because it means that you were in the NCAA tournament, right? But I think, you know, you have good reason to be excited as a Lobo fan.
I don't know about you, Tom, and you've studied this stuff way more than I do and all this. I just have such a hard time with when there's an influx of these international players trying to project. I mean, I mean, maybe you're watching game tape of these guys in France and Germany, and you're dialing this stuff in. I just have no idea what to expect and how a 23-year-old's, you know, Italian is going to, his game is going to translate to the Mountain West or New Mexico. When you've got 3 of them on their roster, San Diego State, I know, has a couple of them that are going to be key players that we'll talk about. There's, you know, littered up and down the roster here. I mean, it's one thing when they transfer in, like they have a couple of guys that are foreign, but they were at another college and are transferring in. That's a little different. But when these guys are coming straight from overseas, it's just super hard for me to have any idea. And here I am trying to put together a magazine here, you know, and figure out how to do that. And it's like, I have no idea. And they've got 3 of them that I think they expect to possibly all contribute. And it's just, that part for me makes it just so much harder than it even already was to project for a lot of these teams. And New Mexico is certainly one of them.
Well, it's near impossible. Last thing on this, and then we'll move on to Air Force. But nobody 11 months ago would have projected Tomislav Buljan to be a first team, you know, to have the season he had, right?
Yep.
And he, you know, I mean, because they brought in another foreign guy and he didn't get off the bench. So it's like flipping a coin. And that's why I said, going over to rosters on here a month or so ago, it's almost like you just grab a few of them and you just figure that the odds tell you that half of them are going to work out, and you'll take it, right? If you bring 3 or 4 over, if 2 of them work out, you'll freaking take it, because the alternative is taking guys who are high school kids who aren't ready to play yet, or taking guys from like low rent Southland or SWAC programs that can't measure up in good conferences, right? So, you know, you take what you can get, and you hope that you can get enough of them to perform for you. So, but look, I trust Olen, and I'm sure some of those guys that he brought over, he mentioned a few of them, and we didn't really get to ask him because we did enough to ask him about, but they had some practices this week. Probably could have asked him who stood out for him, but he mentioned enough guys, and you could tell who he's high on. So good stuff there, Lobo fans. Hope you enjoyed. Let's move to the other end of the Mountain West kind of pecking order, right?
We didn't plan it that way, but we may have the preseason favorite maybe, or one of the top ones, and then maybe the last place team. Yeah,
I mean, listen, I think it's fair to say that Air Force will probably be picked last, right? We all know the deal. Probably the hardest job, if not the hardest, without a doubt, one of the 5 hardest jobs in the country, like per capita, right? Like, you're playing in a very good conference and you're not allowed to take in transfers. And all the sport is now is transfer. So it's like trying to go out there and fight like with a blindfold on, right? So it's very difficult. Now I watched Coach Crispin's introductory press conference a few weeks ago, and I like him. I met him once before out on a recruiting trail, D3, about a decade ago. Obviously, that gives me a little bit of bias. Plus, he's a Penn Stater. I'm a Penn Stater. Watched him play growing up. So, like, you know, I want the guy to succeed, but this is a difficult job. So, you know, it's funny. Have not talked a lot about Air Force on here. As you know, we don't have the bandwidth to cover every single team in these conferences, right? They're going to get talked about when they deserve to be talked about or when they work their way up to it, okay? So I didn't even had not looked until, you know, a few days ago, the Air Force roster. They bring back a lot, BJ. Now,
yes,
they weren't very successful, but they bring back a lot.
They do. I mean, you talk about a team that was 3-29 last year, 0-20 in Mountain West play, but they've got all 5 starters back, 98% of their scoring from last year's team. And, we've talked about this. The storyline with them has always been losing their key player. I mean, we mentioned Petraitis earlier, leaving to go to Cal. Now he's back in New Mexico. They had Highbrighter, the guard that originally went to Clemson. Now he's back in the league at Fresno State. They had another guy last year that went to Utah State. What was his name?
Kearney.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last 3 years they've lost either their leading scorer or their second leading scorer. And Joe Scott kept saying, if we had kept all these guys, we'd have these seniors that would be one of the best teams in the league. And so they can't go add players. We talk about that. They lose a player, they can't go at them, and they can't offer a lot of NIL or whatever to try to keep these guys to stay. So they've been able to recruit, some talented players in there. And then the last couple of years haven't been able to keep them. Somehow new coach comes in and is able to keep all these guys, all 5 starters. Again, pretty much anybody that had anything to do and play. I mean, there was a couple of guys that just played a handful of minutes that they left, but it's pretty much everybody. As I said, 98% of the scoring. Cam Sanders, I know Lucas Hoban, 2 of the better guards that are coming back. Caleb Walker, I know, was injured and came back as well. And then they've got the 7-footer there in the middle. I don't know. I always butcher his name.
I think it's Selahowski. I always went with. Yeah.
He's another guy that I know is shown some signs. They're looking for more from him, but again, it's a long uphill climb for Air Force. And I know it's kind of funny. Like, it's like, hey, well, they have maybe the good thing, bad news, good news is they got everybody coming back. Bad news is they got everybody coming back. So I know you can look at it both ways, but certainly for a new coach, the big thing for me, Tom, and then we'll get to the interview here, is just that sounds like they're going to look a lot different with the way they're going to play.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't expect a lot of our viewers to go and watch Coach's introductory press conference, but when he was a head coach at D3, up and down, up and down, up and down. He spoke many times when he was asked questions in his press conference, and he stressed how he was looking to play a fun style and play fast. So at least they'll be different, right? If you can't outclass the teams you're playing in terms of talent, try to do something different, and that's what Coach Crispin's going to do.
Yeah,
so
I was just going to say, and let's be honest, they're not doing when you talk about changing style, Boise State's going to have a new offense this year. They have a new offensive coordinator, whoever. They're going to change some things. But when you talk about Air Force being a team that's all of a sudden going to run and gun, I mean, you're used to them taking a shot with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, and all the cuts and obviously the Princeton offense or whatever. I mean, this sounds like it's just going to be a completely different thing for Air Force, which is going to be just something where none of us are used to.
Well, and it'll be exciting to watch because let's face it, their games weren't very interesting last year. I think we can count on one hand the amount of games that we really paid attention to Air Force last year. So we'll come back and we'll do what we did with Coach Olen. We'll take a 30-second break. We'll come back with Coach Joe Crispin of the Air Force Academy.
The biggest contest we've ever seen.
Seriously, what's the guarantee?
They're still talking about it.
I think it's time to put the rumors to rest.
Showtime.
$30 million.
$30 million?
$30 million? $30 million?
That's $30 million guaranteed. 3 contests, multiple ways to win, no rate. Entry starting at $1,000. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere.
All right, another night out west. We're continuing our summer series, catching up with some of the coaches in the Mountain West Pac-12. And Tom, I know we were excited for this one. New era beginning there at Air Force. Coach Joe Crispin joins us on the show. Nice enough to join us. And Coach, my first question is, well, what the heck are you doing here? You got a tough job there at Air Force. Got to be one of the toughest jobs in the country. But you're obviously eager for this challenge. We appreciate you coming on. How you doing?
Great. No, actually, it's beautiful out here. We love it. Family loves it, and I do love a challenge. So that's what I told him. I said that the harder it seems, the more I like it. I think I backed it up by saying absolutely, I'm all in. And I think the bar might be low, but I think we can surprise some people and have some fun playing ball here for sure.
I know you've obviously been a D3 coach, but you're back at your alma mater, and as an assistant coach at Penn State. What was it about this job? Again, 3-29, I think, last season, obviously, as you know, and just a really tough season. Didn't win a conference game. I mean, what what was it about this situation? And we're probably going to ask you about the limitations you deal with recruiting and NIL and stuff later, but just what was it about this job and this time right now that made you and your family want to take on this challenge?
Yeah, I mean, one is I love being a head coach. I mean, I love being my alma mater. I love Mike. I enjoyed it. Naturally, it's always challenging, but I love being a head coach. I love the opportunity to turn around a program, to put your imprint on it, have an identity. So there was a lot of themes that are key to me, that are central to my thinking. That is what they were looking for here at the academy. Naturally, coming off a difficult season, being underdogs within the conference. Needing a new basketball identity, particularly playing fast. These were all talking points that's what I'm about. And it can be hard, and everything's hard. I mean, that's one of the things. Winning's hard anywhere. But I always think there's a way. And I think in this instance, we got the whole team returning and the opportunity to really change a narrative, change a story. That's what gets me going. And that's what I think is fun about basketball, is taking these kind of things on and cultivating community through it.
Well, you mentioned all 5 starters coming back, Coach. I mean, talking to Joe the last couple of years, I mean, just the storyline was losing a key player every year to the portal, and how hard it was to keep building. And when you can't do some of the things you can, I mean, to bring all 5 starters back, I think 98% of your scoring, that's not a situation that Air Force has been in here in several years. How nice is that? And when you look at your team, what does excite you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that excites me is these guys have suffered, right? They've suffered for the program. They've struggled through some difficult seasons. And I do think that isn't a good thing, right? Is that when you have a group of guys that have struggled and suffered and they want to change the narrative themselves, here at the academy, they don't give you an opportunity to not mature and grow up and lead and do hard things, and build relationships and a brotherhood. And these guys have that. I've been super impressed with the relationships they have and the vision they have for themselves and the program. That to me is actually the coolest and most powerful motivating force. The basketball stuff we can figure out, and I think they have more latent potential than even they realized. But that's what we're going to tap into is the relationships, the camaraderie, the mission, the vision. I do think that matters more. When you're playing for more, you can actually play better. And I think these guys do have that. And my job is to just give them the basics of basketball to put that on display.
Coach, welcome to the Mountain West. I want to ask, so we know the restrictions for recruiting, all that stuff aside, how about workouts? Are you allowed to get out there, be in around the team for practices, off-season workouts? Have you had a chance to get with the guys yet?
Yeah, our spring was great. And that was one of the most unique things is I had 15 guys in practice, or 15 or 16. We had the whole team returning. So I definitely had to be the only guy in the country who had that in spring workouts. So we probably had a good 5 weeks in the spring where you get your 8 hours to work out on the court and in the strength and conditioning. The guys were all in right away. So it was good for me to give them a taste of what playing fast felt like. Which is part of it. I talk about making fast normal, and that was part of the spring. That's part of the summer. We still have the 8 weeks like everybody has in the NCAA, but it's not the same, right? We've had kids on Air Force bases. We've had kids hopping out of planes one day. We've had kids in the woods doing a variety of things, which I think is awesome, right? We talk about how catered a lot of guys are in Division I basketball. Well, these guys got to do different things. It makes them tougher. It makes them better. But the way I structure the summer anyway is I think the summer should feel like the summer, right? I think you want to get better at basketball, small group stuff, pick up when people are around. So we have to be flexible, which is the way I'd want to be in the summer anyway. But we'll actually have a good group of most of our guys here the last 3 weeks of our summer session. And then we're unique because our guys start school pretty much the first week in August. Academically it's demanding here. So we will have that kind of same spring setup earlier in August to develop things on the court. So I think, our guys get more court time than even I expected. And I think it's good for them developmentally. And it's enough in the summer months to just have, 4 hours to get ready for the real season.
Yeah, that's great. So you alluded briefly to the fact about playing fast. So quick little anecdote here. I wouldn't expect you to remember because it's a decade ago, and you've probably encountered 50,000 people in the sport in this interim decade here. But you and I spent a day at the old Hoop Group event in Albright in those folding chairs along the bleachers when you had just taken the Rowan head job, and I was still a D3 assistant at Muhlenberg. And I picked your brain, and I remember you telling me how you were going to play fast at Rowan. And I probably thought to myself, yeah, we'll see. Everybody says this. You just get a new job, first-time head coach. Sure, he's going to play fast, blah, blah, blah. Well, you played fast, all right. And I listened to your introductory press conference at Air Force, and you said the same thing. We're going to play fast. We're going to play 94 feet. So I imagine you have 15 guys there. That plays right into your hands. You need a lot of guys at altitude if you're going to play fast. So I think a lot of things work there. Are the guys excited? Change of style here? What's been the reception to playing that type of style?
It's been great, right? And it's funny you mentioned that, because that was just my vision. I was just going to play fast. I'm not willing to play slow. It doesn't mean that we have to be crazy and running around like crazy and trying to score 140 points. There's nuance to it, right? But I want to be disruptive. I want to be aggressive. I want players to be empowered. And, I do think it's just an enjoyable way to play the game. It requires more of me as a coach in terms of just emotionally letting go, right? And letting players play, but less in the sense that I try to keep things simple and empower guys to play. That's just the way I always saw the game. And that's why I did it right from the very beginning. And it's why I'll do it till my dying breath as a coach. The guys have been great with it. And I do think it's been interesting here. This is a high academic environment. We have the military component. When people think about playing fast, they often just think about being fast. And I always say, like, it's the brain more than just the legs, right? It's just making quick decisions, being smart basketball players, being efficient with your time. That's really the key to playing fast. So, that's what I told the guys. I'm like, you don't necessarily have to move fast. You just need to be on all the time, right? And that's kind of the way we play the game, is like, you're always on. There's no like down moments when you can just look at the coach for 10 seconds. We're not doing that. We're not doing that defensively. We're not doing that offensively. The game's not going to stop except for timeouts and free throws and inbounds for us. And that's just kind of the way I always viewed the game. And I think it's a fun way. Our guys tasted it in the spring. And I think smart guys are more capable of playing that way than people often think. So it'll be an interesting, we'll see how quick we can pick up on it, but I'm very confident they're going to enjoy it. And I think the fans got to enjoy it. That's the other thing here. Like, we have this amazing arena. We have the altitude. Like you said, we have depth, which a lot of people don't have because of budgets, right? So we're going to play those games and see how it goes.
Joe Crispin, our guest, the new head coach at Air Force, here on another night out west. And Coach, you mentioned all 5 starters coming back. Let's talk about a couple of your players specifically here. What do you like about what you have? And obviously Cam and Lucas had, great freshman seasons. You've got a 7-footer, a nice guy to build around as well. Talk about some of your individual pieces here and what you like.
Yeah, naturally, Cam and Lucas are the guys everyone talks about the most. And even though they didn't win a ton of games, like what these guys did in an adverse situation as freshmen in the Mountain West was impressive, right? Cam's an explosive athlete. I think he's going to be even more enjoyable to watch in the full court, right? He's a downhill guy. He's capable of scoring and creating. And Lucas really he's an elite shooter, but his shot quality was not super high, right? Just based on the pace at which they played. So we're really just teaching him how to hunt shots in good ways for the team and use the gravity that he has as a player. So I'm just super excited. I'm super excited for anybody who's a freshman that played college basketball, right? Because now they know what they're getting into. So I think these guys are ready to take a big step. I think there's other guys that people didn't see a lot that are really capable basketball players. Wes is a big 7-footer. Caleb Walker got hurt kind of mid-year. Is a super talented kid, right? He's kind of a multi-positional. What position? I tell him, what position do you play? You play yourself, right? That's your position. You're just a good basketball player. And that's the way I talk about it with all of our guys, right? Ethan Greenberg shot the ball at a high percentage on difficult attempts, right? So if we can get them in situations where they get higher quality attempts, and oftentimes I think from a shooting perspective, more attempts, right? That's the way I always viewed it as a shooter. People would say, well, the best way to make more is to take better ones. I said, no, it's to take more, right? If you just take more shots and get more shots, shooters make more, right? I speak from experience. If you give me 15, I'll make more than if you give me 5 percentage wise. So just philosophically, that's why we'll just be more aggressive, right? In all respects, to give our guys more opportunities, at the offensive end. And those guys are really, they're at the top of the list. But I think they have a chance to really surprise some people.
So Coach, it's funny you mentioned the transition here to almost positionless basketball. I had my buddies are all Penn Staters, and they said that you were the original combo guard 25 years ago before that position was ever created. You were the first ever combo guard. But so you've mentioned like playing at like a breakneck pace as far as we're not stopping. We saw IU Indy try that this past season. Are you talking going to that extreme, or we're just going to play like fast, or are we going to the IU Indy level of like we're pressing and we're either going to get a steal or we're going to give up a layup and we're just going to fire up the first shot? I mean, is there I know you said we're not going to be stupid, but are you playing like X plus speed here? What's the thoughts on that?
There will be games I'm not afraid to do that. A lot of it depends on your opponent in my mind, right? And that's the way we did it at the Division III level, right? I don't think you can beat great teams playing the same exact way all the time, right? And I think depending on your personnel, right, there should be some strategy involved in your pressing. I always tell people I am 100% committing to pressing, but I hate giving up layups. I will not do that, right? You'll see me hop off the bench and lose it when that happens. No, I'm not into that, right? Because I'm trying to do the simplest way I put it is we're trying to do all the same things. I'm just trying to get there faster, right? From an analytical perspective, I know all that stuff. We're in on that. We're just trying to do it faster, right? And when people talk about efficiency, we do mean efficiency with our possessions, but we often don't talk about efficiency with time. And really, that's all I'm trying to do offensively is to be more efficient with the time and the possession itself. And then defensively to disrupt that. And if that takes 25 seconds, it takes 25 seconds. And if it takes 8, it takes 8. I think there's a way when people, with a 24-second shot clock, it's simpler in the pros, even overseas. I think people think you have to play frenetic to get to 100 points. And I think in today's college game, that's not true, right? Many teams are being more aggressive with earlier shots in the shot clock. So you can play when you talk about 100-point pace. I think sometimes people hear 125, and that's not the same pace. To get to 125, you have to take risks that might look kind of reckless. The way we want to play defensively and offensively, our risks need to be calculated, but they need to be calculated quickly, right? That's the best way I can put it philosophically. And, if that means we're at 100, great. If it means we're at 85, great. If it means we're at 65, not good. I don't like that. That's kind of the way I look at it. It's going to happen at times that you got to grind out a game that you're just missing, and it's a road game in February, and you want to prepare your team to win in that game too. But in general, we want to develop strategies that make the game more to my liking.
Final couple questions here for Joe Crispin. And Coach, I cover Boise State, so I mean I've been to Clune Arena several times, and unfortunately don't have any scheduled trips there here in the near future unless you can get Leon to do a home and home or something, which I don't think he'd be crazy about doing. But what you mentioned the arena, and everybody knows just the process of getting on the base and getting up the hill and getting in there, and you get in there and just how cool a place with the hockey on one side and it's right there on the other. And there's been a couple times where it's been a special night or something where it's filled with cadets or there's a lot of people there. But a lot of times, more times than not, it's been fairly empty when I've been there. And I know the weather has something to do with that, all that. But I would always sit there and go, man, if this place was packed, it would be – and sometimes maybe it's harder to play because it's empty. I don't know. But how do you go about trying to get the fan base and the folks in Colorado Springs and the nearby areas back like you said, you got to put a product out there that deserves that. I get that. But what is the goal in trying to fill that place a little more regularly? Because I do think that could be a pretty cool venue for basketball if it were packed.
Yeah, my brother, he was naturally called games all over the country with ESPN. I mean, he's been to Duke, he's been to Allen Fieldhouse, he's been to Purdue, he's been all over the place. He's like, to this day, one of his all-time favorite games is here in Clune Arena. When he was calling games out west, they beat San Diego State, and he goes, it was the greatest college basketball environment because it was packed, it was loud, you couldn't hear yourself think. And that was one of the first things he told me. He goes, with your style of play, you win it all and fill that place. It's going to be one of the best environments. So I think it starts with identity, right? You got to be worth coming on base for, right? I mean, I do think that. And I think that win or lose, I believe like win or lose, you should walk away going, that was fun, right? I really believe that about basketball. I tried to play the game that way and I try to coach the game that way. So I think it starts there. But then there's also this component of just connecting with community through basketball, right? Connecting so that people know what we stand for here on campus, right? The cadets themselves, the people themselves, and then also within the Colorado Springs area. We have plenty of people that know how to get on campus around here and come to basketball games, but we need to connect with them, right? So us going into the community and then them thinking it's worth coming on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night. Not just because we'll grind out a victory, but because win or lose, it's going to be worth the time. So that's where I start, right, with the game of basketball. And I think that's the way, basketball is a unique sport, right? You can play it in a variety of ways, and it's a real personal, man. Like you get to see these people up close and personal, especially in Clune Arena. And I think if we give them something to cheer for, that time will come.
Coach, I think this kind of piggybacks off of what you just said about filling the arena, but we all know, and I'm sure you've been asked this plenty of times, the inability to get transfers in for your program. Okay. Now the retention was incredible from last year to this coming year. How do you continue that to retain players because you can't bring guys in? How do you keep guys from leaving with the limited NIL that Air Force has, some of the other restrictions? How do you get momentum? Obviously winning number one, but what's your message? How do you sell that? Because again, when I watched your introductory press conference, I'm sure you had the guys ready to run through a wall for you out there. You said all the right things. I thought it was fantastic. What's your message moving forward here to keep to get the ball rolling, keep momentum going for this program?
Yeah, the way I put that is I want it. It's for select players in particular in today's market. I do want it to be really hard to leave and really hard to stay. Right? Because that means you're having a great basketball experience, and it also means you're having success. And in today's market, there are numbers that should be considered, right? And a lot of people don't realize how high the numbers are for a lot of these guys. I'm not afraid of those conversations at all, right? And I've put that all out there for our guys. Like, I played in the pros for 11 years. I change teams all the time. Like, I get how this works. I know how this system works, and I know the positives and negatives to it. So number one thing is I tell everybody, I'm not holding anybody back from something that's good for them. But the flip side of that is make sure you know how good this is too, right? Make sure you know what you want, right? And I think the reality is there's a lot of families that we've already connected with who are realizing, like, we don't want our kid to play college basketball, make a few bucks, and never have a home. We want a home. We want to be clear about the future. We want to play the long game and not just the short game. And that's not going to be for everybody. It's not. But there are enough really good basketball players who do want that and who are recognizing, yeah, I might sacrifice a little bit right now, but on the flip side, educationally and connections and all that go with the academy, which I'm learning more by the day, that is a legitimate long play that will change your life for the positive as well. So both sides of those can be true. And I'm not afraid of any of that. I'm not afraid of any kid leaving for a good reason financially, the way Paul Skeens did in baseball, right? Like those things should happen because that means you're recruiting kids for the right reasons and you're not holding them back from a bright future. And on the flip side, you want to make sure a kid understands, like, listen, you don't want to leave for this because it's not what you think financially, number one. And number two, you probably are going to have to leave again another year from now, and you're not going to like it just based on knowing you, right? So we just keep it above board. And I think guys know I'm sincere, and they know, like, I've lived in this system and that is unique. Like, there's no conversation you're going to have that is uncomfortable for me, right? I've sat before presidents in foreign countries, all right, and had to talk about finances. So this is nothing. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, it's like I said, there's enough young men who want to do this and have a vision here for the academy, who love basketball, that we can be successful. And then there's going to be some who, geez, they're just even better than we originally thought. And they're going to make $2 million, and we should encourage that, right? And both of those are going to be true, I hope, in our case.
Well, final question for you, Coach. We really appreciate your time today. Just the new era here of the Mountain West, and some teams leaving, some teams coming in. Just what's your take on this league and the future of this league, and how you see it as a basketball league, and obviously, you still had to go to New Mexico and Nevada and some tough places here, and up playing, speaking of altitude up in Wyoming and stuff. But just what do you make about what Air Force is getting, what you're getting into, and now this new era here with Air Force in the new look Mountain West?
Yeah, I think first off, it's always been a great basketball league, and I think it'll continue to be a great basketball league. Naturally, it's not there. We lost some heavy hitters, right? That's there's no secret there from a basketball perspective, but it's not like it's going to be an easy conference by any stretch to navigate, right? These teams are used to winning. They're used to having success. They're used to being in NCAA tournaments. And naturally, Grand Canyon came in the league last year. They're still in the mix. They're basketball centric, right? New Mexico, amazing basketball program, right? Nevada, Coach Alford, right? I had to compete against him at Iowa. So it's not going to be easy. Now, the interesting thing too that is a dynamic is just playing 18 conference games, 14 out of conference. A lot of scheduling. There's a lot of scheduling things going on in college basketball that can work both positively and negatively, right? Some of which teams are struggling to get the games they want because the Power Five doesn't want to play you. And then otherwise playing a lot of these non-conference games so that you can compare yourself to other conferences throughout the year. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great challenge. But I think at the same time, if we play our cards right and we're able to stay healthy, we're going to be competitive in the conference.
And I think I saw this is the first time since 1985, and maybe like the third time ever, where you guys are going to play both service academies in the same season when you talk about having to find 14 non-conference games. So those will be, I know, two exciting ones you guys are looking forward to. But Coach, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. And hopefully you guys can get off to, a hot start this fall, and we'll be happy to bring you back on the show once we get things rolling with the season.
I'd love to do that. I would love, especially after a win. Be great to hop on this show.
I was just gonna say, we'll get you on here after a big W in the winter, Coach. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, it all sounds good, right? I mean, I knew very little, and we appreciate Coach Crispin coming on. I'll be honest, Tom, I knew very little about Joe Crispin. Hadn't heard him talk much. Didn't know much about him. As you said, hadn't done much research on Air Force. Now, again, they're probably still going to be pretty bad this year, and we won't be talking a lot of Air Force probably after today for a long time. But I think if you hear that, there's at least a little hope that they can start, whether it's this year or years after, be better than the just dreadful team they've been the last couple of years.
Well, here's what I will say. And had I not had the personal connection that I had with Coach, I would have been in the same boat as you, right? He's got very little Division I experience, period, right? No head coaching experience at a D1 level, and only 3 years as an assistant at the D1 level at Penn State, okay? And Penn State was mediocre at best the last 3 years under Mike Rhodes, haven't made the NCAA tournament. So, the Oregon State first-year head coach, Justin Joyner, a little bit of a different situation. He comes from Michigan where they won a national title, right? So this is one of those where, as you said, it sounds great because Coach Crispin said a lot of wonderful things right there, right? But yes, obviously, as everybody knows, and we talked about at the top, very difficult job. Now, I will say this, as you said before we brought Coach on, it's like the old thing in football. Well, they bring 10 starters back on defense. Well, guess what? They give up 45 points a game. Do you want those 10 starters back, right? But here's my counter to that. New coach, new setup, new culture. The Joe Scott thing went sideways at the end for various reasons, right? He was relieved of his duties for something really that wasn't really on court related, although it was probably headed that way anyway with how they had trended the last couple of years. So you bring all these guys back, okay? You get rid of what was turning into a negative situation. You get a guy coming in his first year as a head coach, full of confidence, bringing a new system in. Okay. Now, a lot of coaches say that they want to play fast, which can kind of turn into a little bit of hectic stuff, right? What do you need in order to do that? You need a couple things. You need depth, which he has with a lot of guys coming back. And really, let's just say guys 8 through 13 are the same level of ability, who cares, right? Because that's great, right? The other thing you need when you play a kind of a rogue system is you need discipline. Well, what program in the country, aside from Army and Navy, are going to give you better discipline than the Air Force Academy, right? So again, I'm not saying that this is going to be a team that finishes 5th in the Mountain West, but last week when I did this show, and I'll admit, like I said to you, hand up, I had not done a lot of research on Air Force because I had not, we hadn't talked about them a lot. You told me earlier in the week we were going to get Coach Crispin on here later in the week to do an interview for this show tonight. So I looked at the roster. I said, they bring some guys back. Last week, my goal for Air Force was to win 2 conference games. I think I'm going to change my thought here. I will predict. All I'm going to say, BJ, is this. I don't think they finished last in the conference. I don't think they finished last. I think they finished ahead of UTEP or something. I don't think they finished last. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just sold, his vision too well. But I think with the returning production, the style change, I think they don't finish last. So there you go.
I'm just laughing. Like, how far has a program fallen where the goal is to just win 2 conference games?
Well, I mean, listen, they didn't win a game last year from the end of November on. December, January, February, March. Now, obviously, they didn't play a lot of games in March, but that's the last 3.5 months.
Doing my research for Lindy's here, it's the 20th anniversary, I guess, since their last trip to the NCAA tournament. They went in 2006, so maybe there's some magic left in it. Are they going to this year even finish 500? Maybe not. Maybe they load up a lot of easy non-con games. I don't know, but I think they'll at least be more competitive. I mean, there were games where they were down 35-7. We're just going to flip the channel. We're done watching this one for tonight.
Right.
And so it at least sounds like, and you at least hope they're going to be a little more competitive. And it's going to take a while there. No doubt about it. It is certainly going to take a while, but I mean, you mentioned all 5 starters coming back, and let's just go through this real quick. Cam Sanders, 12.5 points, sophomore. You have Ethan Greenberg, 6.5 points per game, 52 threes, sophomore. Lucas, is it Hoban? I always say it wrong. 73 pointers, 11.5 points a game, sophomore. Eli Robinson, junior, 7 and 8.5 points per game. The only senior is the center. So, I mean, we're talking about 5 starters coming back this year. They could have 4 starters coming back again the following year, too. So a lot of young talent there that you hope can develop. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this or not during the interview. Coach, you got to look into that ceiling leaking over your right shoulder.
Well, the funny thing is that's a buddy of mine who he knew Crispin was going to be on because he's a Penn Stater and he's just being a wise guy. So
I up there though. The definitely looks like his office could use a little updating there.
I mean, listen.
That Air Force budget, man. We know it's small, I guess.
Yeah, if they don't have NIL, they're not fixing the ceiling tiles. But listen, he's got a good idea, right? You got to try something different, okay? Because you're not going to out-talent teams more often than not. But if they have a little bit of success, and as you pointed out, the retention gives you a head start, really, once the games come in November. And they don't normally schedule very tough in a non-con. I'm not saying they're going to go 9-2, but they should be able to maybe get a few wins here against some other bottom-level teams to get themselves off to a good start. You have a little bit of success. The guys enjoy playing in the system. Maybe you can keep some of these guys around for another year to next year, where the goal is then to finish in the 4, 5, 6 hole in the conference. So that should be. I know Coach Crispin wants to, let's just try to level up one piece at a time, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a great chat. Appreciate him. Appreciate Coach Olen. And like we said, we're going to try to do like 2 of these a week for the next like 5 or 6 weeks. And some may be Mountain West. We actually tried to get 1 and 1, but the schedules didn't line up this week. So next week may actually be 2 Pac-12 guys, and maybe we'll try to go 1 and 1. I mean, we've always done it at media days, and I haven't been able to pull it off. They're not having media days that I know of, or maybe they are for basketball, but maybe we try to get the Leon Mark Few, joint interview going on this show here. If we can't, if we'll have to figure out the scheduling, but there's a couple of Boise fans in here. Stand-back's going to be a problem for Boise breakout season. I don't know if you've been paying attention. There has been a lot of hype in the media and some of the stuff that's been said about this Jaquarius Stanback, the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. They brought him in, and I know Boise's super excited about maybe getting a steal with this Stanback cat.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he's certainly going to have an opportunity because I think one of the other bigs you said is banged up, right? One of the Europeans they brought over is banged up, right? In addition to Rodgers, so I know Rodgers isn't a front court guy, but it's another piece, another rotation guy. So Stanback's going to have his opportunity to produce, and if he's the athletic freak that it sounds like he is, and he gets coached up, because let's face it, probably was not getting the type of coaching that he's going to get here at Boise in the SWAC. So I mean, I'd be excited too for a guy like that with that athleticism.
I got a quick bite here. How about this? This is Pearson Carmichael from Boise State last week with his thoughts on Jaquarius Stanback.
Oh, okay.
Just dog. He's someone that is going to shock the world, in my opinion. So excited we stole him, and he's going to show Bronco Nation some special stuff.
All right.
He's going to shock the world. Glad we stole him. He's going to show Bronco Nation some special stuff.
I'm sure that they've been doing these workouts, whatever you want to call them, practices, whatever you want to call them. But so I'm sure that this is a lot of times where these guys are going to see these players in live action for the first time instead of just doing individual work, right? So you see somebody get out there in 5-on-5, and maybe he makes a highlight dunk or an alley-oop or a block where he comes out of nowhere. And yeah, that's what you like to see. You want the players like Peanut to talk about guys in glowing terms like that. So good stuff. The last thing, J&R's in here a lot with the European players, to piggyback off of your comments. And then what happens to the 3-star high school recruits, they just get lost in a shuffle now. We didn't really talk about it. We don't have enough time now because we've gone pretty long in here. But the 5-and-5 thing, it's just going to get these guys. You're not going to redshirt anymore. You're just going to you have two options. You go to a good school and you just sit for a year or two, or you go to a real bottom feeder school if you want to play right away, and you're going to suffer because your team's not going to be very good. So it's just kind of the way it is, I think, at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. And we'll see what changes with the rule too on that part of the rule, in terms of the age and all that, and how that's going to go through. And it's all messed up, and it's crazy. But by the way, Lobos are going to be like the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay. Yeah, I skipped over that because I put Ice's other comment on it. He just wanted to talk about. Yeah, I mean, I don't I'm not sure in what way that is. Is that because Showtime? I guess they were Showtime when they had Dent and Toppin back in the day with Patino. I thought they were the Showtime Lakers, but.
I think next week, if we, depending on the interviews next week, though, next week's my due date. Actually, is supposed to be my due date for this Lindy's stuff, Tom. And I know you've kind of done this, but maybe we take 10 minutes at some point next week too, and go through some early superlatives, preseason player of the year, newcomer of the year. Or maybe let's pick a first, second, and third team. I'm just, this is my code word of saying, can you help me fill this out for Lindy's? Because I don't know yet, but maybe we have a little fun. We do Pac-12 one week, the Mountain West the next week, or vice versa. I know you've done some of that already and dug into some of the rosters and things, but maybe we have a little Lindy's Magazine summer prediction time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had 15 minutes at the top here with the breaking news that I keep saying every week, we're not going to really have much. There was only 1 week where nothing happened. Every other week, something happens for us to talk about. So, which is good. But maybe if we can squeeze that in for sure next week, I can help you and we can dig some of that stuff up. But look, hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Let's thank the sponsors again. Circa's been bouncing. Make sure when you get to Vegas, not if, but when you get to Vegas, check out Circa Sports, mobile betting, the great sports book there, and of course, Stadium Swim. Check out the Sun Cruiser down there in the bottom right. Get yourself a nice adult beverage to cool off here in the hot days of the summer, and subscribe to the pod at the bottom if you've not done so. YouTube.com/@AnotherNightOutWest. Thank BJ for being here with me tonight. We'll have BJ along for the next few weeks, as I think it appears, and he told me a few days ago, looks like this coming week, at the end, next week, we'll have Coach Farouk Manesh from CSU and Vance Wahlberg from Fresno.
And I think a couple others too that we'll see. I know Wahlberg's, but for sure Farouk Manesh and definitely Wahlberg. They're going international again heavy. So yeah, we'll plenty to talk about. We're gonna have I hope for 2 coaches for each of the next like 5 or 6 episodes.
Sounds like a plan. That gets us through the end of the summer there, and you can start focusing on football, and we'll start focusing on preseason practices, and that'll make the transition nice and easy. So nice, long, smooth hour and a half. But this was a great episode, BJ. Thanks for setting this up. Those dual interviews with Lindy's and for the preview here really worked out well. The guests were great. One more thank you to both Eric Olen and Joe Crispin. Go by Lindy's.
I guess the football one's out, but we're still.
I was going to say
writing the basketball one, so it won't be out till Labor Day. But you can go buy the football one.
Wait for it to come out before you go buy it. But BJ just giving a little shout out for Lindy's. Thanks to Coach Olen, Coach Crispin. Thank to all of you for being here, and join us next week. Same bad time, same bad channel here on Another Night Out West, and we'll catch you guys then. See ya.